everybody, and welcome to the adults only time slot that we seem to have now gone for, 8 p.m. We are well and truly, we're going to go for it. We're going to go for episode 2 now. And I am joined by my colleague, the man himself, my special guest, Mr. Angus Calder.
Thanks for having me, Chris. Good to be back for round 2 of the Nero Tour spin. Pretty exciting racing over the weekend, both in the Tour and in Sydney. I mean, we had some pretty explosive racing over at the Metropolitan Road Titles in Penrith, and racing with you on Sunday, actually.
So guys, just on that actually, like obviously with us attempting to do this, right, the vlog is going to sort of suffer a little bit. We're just not going to be able to get out as much as we would have liked. So kind of what I thought we'd do is start this off by maybe just doing a little bit of a recap on the weekend. And guys, it was actually a really awesome weekend of racing. So as Gus just mentioned, we were at the Metro / Country.
Yes, both of them, yeah.
Championships? Yep, something like that. At Penrith, where a couple of us managed to get on a podium. But Sunday was really cool. So Sunday was the final round of this New South Wales NRS Raw Series, which, guys, you probably remember a couple of weeks back, we did a team time trial vlog where we almost died because Seb ran in the back of his wheel. But we also took a 19-second GC lead into the final round, and the final round was on Sunday. It was up at West Head, and it was a cracker, like an absolutely cracking West Head race. We ended up coming away with the win, which meant we got cycling's biggest trophy, seemingly, which was very, very exciting. But at the risk of sounding like a terrible, terrible cliche, like cycling, especially cycling in New South Wales, definitely the winner at this, because like new concept, elite racing, like real team orientated stuff, which was fantastic. Great for our sponsors, great for the sponsors of the other teams. And yeah, look, we came away with the win. So big shout out to Paul Craft for getting that off the ground, and a shout out to the other teams that ripped in and had a crack as well.
Good to have some proper leg breaking West Head action back in business.
Like that is dead set right. So like we whinged not that long ago about West Head and like how it was turning into this pretty defensive race. That was the opposite, right? Like,
yeah, I mean, we pretty much rolled out of the gun and attacks just flew from the get-go. I mean, you had notoriously aggressive Sam Hill attacking pretty much out of the gun. He actually missed one of the turnarounds, but it set everybody up for what was a really cracking race. First hill, everyone just lit it up, and it was pretty much non-stop from there until the finish line 4 laps later. So check out on our Facebook page, we did a race report on the race. That kind of does sum up that particular event pretty damn well. Now, speaking of racing, there's been a little bit happening in France, so we thought we might have a quick chat about it. Obviously, guys, this is not going to be necessarily like who won, who lost. We'll obviously mention that Fernando Gaviria won the sprint pretty convincingly. But Sagan stage 2 picked up the yellow jersey.
Yeah, pretty impressive. But we thought what we'd do is pick out a couple of elements from the races. And okay, so this is going to be a bit of a pet sort of mine to follow, but it is the breakaway, right? So, and I think this might just be because I can never get in a friggin' breakaway. So maybe I'm sort of obsessed with it. But those of you who might have seen the beginning of stage 1, like witnessed pretty much a ceremony, right? So like kilometer 0, and then it's, oh, let's just let a few guys roll away, and that seems to be the breakaway sorted, which never happens in our racing. So what the hell is going on there?
Well, in our races, often the breakaway is once the breakaway is gone, that is the winning breakaway. It doesn't actually come back. In this race, very different dynamic. You have what is a very long stage, 200 kilometers, and there's a yellow jersey up for grabs being the first stage. So pretty much all of the sprinters teams want to win. So what that means is the breakaway has basically a 0 chance of staying away, because all of the sprinters teams will collaborate to bring them back so that they can try and put their sprinters in the yellow jersey. Yeah. So it's more or less a suicide mission to go in the breakaway, and because the chance of succeeding is so small, no one really wants to be there. So they kind of just let off the leash because so few people want to get away. Everyone's happy to let them get away, have a bit of structure to the race, and off they go.
So the teams, and this is kind of what we were trying to talk about in the first episode, right, guys, is like the teams that obviously were in that breakaway are not the teams that will be winning in Paris. These are your pro-continental teams, and this is their chance to get exposure, right? This 4 hours of television on French TV is what their sponsors want, right? So the flip side of that is the riders themselves. Like, you know, to be told probably in the morning that your job is to ride 200 Ks on a suicide mission on the first day of your lap around France, right? So these poor 3 lads, like watch these guys in the last 3 weeks and how they suffer, because, you know, this is accumulated fatigue from what they've had to go and do is not on. This breakaway, like in 2 weeks' time, there's going to be a fight for this break. Like even the Roubaix stage, right?
Yeah, I think the Roubaix stage is going to be pretty competitive to make the break in that stage for sure. I mean, getting a head start over all of the classic specialists and all of the GC riders, because they all have a classics rider. We were talking about this in the last show. Yep. Having a classics rider around them, it's going to be very fast, very hectic. Getting a head start again is going to be quite competitive. Depending on how the race is raced, we might see towards the 3rd week the breakaway just being let go again, simply because everyone's just pretty spent after ripping it around France for 2.5 weeks.
So I think that may be my best chance to get in a break is get on a pro-continental team and just roll off the front.
Just wait for the 3rd week of the tour, and then you can just wait for everyone else to get tired, and you can just slide away.
Watch these 3 blokes. The last week, it's going to be hell for them. And like Junior mentioned there, like the World Tour guys would be looking at this going, no thanks. Like we have bigger fish to fry. We have a yellow jersey to defend. We have a stage to try and win. That's their goal. This sort of stuff is not interesting. What was kind of interesting though is the chase. Now, obviously the sprinting teams are going to do the chasing, but what you picked out, Junior, was particularly who was actually doing the chasing.
Yeah, it was quite interesting actually to see Robert Hessink on the front of the bunch.
Next slide, Luke.
I didn't really expect to see him there. I mean, he's a mountain domestique, very good climber, 2nd in a mountain stage last year. I really would have thought he'd be here supporting Primoz Roglic, who's a dark horse for the overall. But I think what's happened is he's sort of supporting Dylan Groenewegen for the sprints. Only thing I can really think of is maybe he's trying to save the bigger boys for the lead out. But I don't really think it's his job. I think he should just be waiting.
I mean, this is a mountain domestic. He's a Grand Tour stage winner. It's a strange one for me. I don't quite know what he was up to. Luke, if you can actually flick back 1 slide, I just want to quickly mention something. Yeah, so the 3rd guy in that breakaway on stage 1 was from the French continental team that Warren Barguil is on, and the name of that team is Fortuneus. This is the audience. We have a live audience this evening, by the way.
Fortuneus Samsic.
So I thought that was pretty interesting. Just quickly, so you know, here is a guy who we all thought was maybe the French next big hope, goes to this team that maybe is going to be built around him, and yet they put a rider, one of their 8 guys, in a suicide breakaway. To me, that kind of smacks of, I don't think Warren's going that well, and he's not really going to factor that much.
He's been a bit subpar lately, and I forget his name. He was gunning for the KOM jersey, so there's 1 point on offer for the 1st stage. Again, another reason for those pro-Conti guys to make it into the break. It's really great for them to jump into the early breakaway. There's a 700 meter 4% hill. I mean, you could barely call it a hill, but they have to separate everybody somehow. So he jumped into the KOM jersey there, got a bit of promotion for the team. He rides for a French team. It's really great.
But it's not something you do if your team leader.
This is true. If your team leader's really bombing, that's probably not something I would be doing. And unfortunately for him, he's had Dion Smith, who I mentioned in the last show, jumped in the breakaway the next day and took up another point on the 2nd stage, so he equaled points. So they're both on 1 point. However, Dion made the business decision to actually drop himself from the breakaway because the point of differentiation is actually the GC placing for the KOM jersey. and he knew that old mate had lost 3 minutes yesterday, so he dropped himself from the break to make sure that he kept himself up there on GC. So kudos to Dion. He's going to be wearing the polka dot jersey, which is pretty awesome to see from a New Zealander.
Can we claim him?
Probably not. Probably not. He's interesting fact. He's actually the first New Zealander I read, first New Zealander ever on a Tour de France podium, which is.
That's actually quite surprising.
Which is pretty
genuinely surprising.
Yeah, very surprising, very interesting. Because I mean, they've got some big hitters down there, but very surprising. None of them actually been on any sort of podium for a stage or classification before. Speaking
of surprising, I'm trying to work out how to do segues. So this is me attempting one now. Luke, the next picture is one of young Mr. Froomey. Now, obviously, the next thing we want to talk about is a lot of the off-the-bike action here, because that really was the headline, definitely in the first 2 days, without a doubt. This one, I mean, look, the first one with Richie, that kind of stuff happens, but this one blows my mind. Like, both of us were talking about this. So, okay, so even like in some of the domestic racing and stuff that we do, like, there's a set kind of rhythm to the way these bunches work. And Sky, for example, are clearly, they're the dominant team, right? The dominant team with the four-time defending champion in there. And normally what you would expect from that team is for them to really dominate a particular part of the bunch. For us, a lot of the time, that kind of is the front left-hand-ish side of the road. I mean, it lets the sprinters teams do their thing. They'll dominate a block, and then, often us, are in the washing machine area, which is, you look at that picture of Froomey, that's the friggin' washing machine area. That is the gutter, basically. So to me, that was a really, really surprising image of now, actually, it was a surprising image because it was a bi-camera. Wonder if he had his form. All forms filled out. Can we get that checked by somebody? So that was really cool and really interested to see it. And in that picture as well, I don't know, like, you can't actually see another Sky rider.
No, it's very interesting. I mean, you have, I like to call it the sweet spot. It's up towards the front of the bunch. It's not on the front, so you're not using much energy. You're behind the teams that are riding the front, but you're still ahead of that whole sort of washing machine you described, which is sort of 20 riders or so back, where everyone's just moving around, trying to get themselves to the front, and it's very hard to maintain position there. I mean, Froomey's a very experienced rider, very experienced in Grand Tours. He's got an incredibly strong team. It was quite surprising to see him. He's right on the edge of the road. I mean, it's a terribly dangerous place to ride at such a late point in the game. I mean, maybe he just sort of lost concentration for a minute, or he just couldn't maintain it. But he's not someone who's new to this game. I mean, he's top 10 to a lot of sprint stages simply to keep himself out of trouble.
You wonder whether he's moving up to try and find his team or something there. But that to me was a bit of a surprising one. Wasn't the only crash. No, obviously
many crashes. Just quickly for Jay, yes, we are actually in Paris. We flew in last night. Just wanted to clear that up. Yeah, we're flying ahead.
We're flying ahead.
Yes,
crash.
Many crashes. I mean, you had sort of 6 or 7 separate incidents every single day. I mean, we've got Heinrich Hausler. He's poor Heinrich. He's my favourite cyclist. He's had many crashes over the years, and he's touched down again here on stage 2 on that final corner, which is really not ideal for someone like Nibali. I mean, he's going to be Nibali's right-hand man over the cobbles, and someone to help out in a team time trial. He's quite an explosive rider. Is very much less than ideal. And then you also have, as Brandon was saying in the comments earlier, Lawson Craddock, who crashed and ended up actually breaking his scapula. I believe he broke his shoulder. And he's, next slide, Luke, and he's still pushing on. So that's, I mean, incredible respect for him. He's from what I've read, he's screaming out with pain every time he has to touch the brakes on these stages. It's quite incredible that he's still pushing on.
So I have broken my scapula. Broke my scapula, yes, Elizabeth. That's our other audience member this evening. Descending Jamboree Pass here in New South Wales. Now, I did not finish the Tour de France after breaking my scapula. I was on the couch for how many days? Ever.
Many.
Yes, many days. It's an incredibly friggin' painful bloody injury. We'll talk about the team time trial a little bit later, but what the hell?
Yeah, they're made of steel, these boys. It's pretty impressive. And then I guess what are we moving on to the tech after that, or have we got? We've got. I just wanted to point out. I mean, I love seeing this when you come to the tour. It always blows me away a little bit. Is how lean these guys actually are. I mean, you hear about cyclists being skinny, but at an event like this, everyone really leans down. And every now and then you see a picture. You've got Luis Leon Sanchez up on screen here. Is pretty insane. And then, I mean, the toll on the body as well is exceptional. That photos from the first day there is quite incredible to see the level of exertion. One day into 21 stages is. You don't normally see that from the TV. You don't get those close-up images, so it's really nice when you have some great photographers close up, getting to see all those really close-up.
I'm not sure
sort of parts of the tour. I mean, that's something we get in the Australian summer.
I don't know whether it's the fact that like we watch a lot more of the cycling season now, but like for me watching the Grand Tours this year round, the guys do look like even skinnier than normal. And maybe it's just because like you watch some of the classics and the guys they are just generally bigger during that part of the year to what they are now. But like you just watch the guys now, they are just so narrow.
It's pretty incredible. Yeah, you're starting to get some stick insects out there. And another thing I really love about it is all the custom tech. I mean, it's the biggest show. It's basically a giant spectacle for cycling. So all of the sponsors love to whip out pretty much everything they can throw at the tour. So you've got Sylvain Chavanel here. He's in his, I believe, 18th tour. He's got the most tour starts of anybody. He's the most experienced tour rider currently riding the thing. And I just thought he had a very, very flash sort of bronze chrome Willia there. I thought was pretty awesome. He loves to animate a race, and it's a very easy bike to spot. So keep your eye out for Sylvain. He's won a couple of stages in the past, and I'd really like. He's a very attacking, interesting rider. I'd love to see him get up there. So keep an eye out for him. Should be pretty easy to spot.
Okay, so that's the racing, I think, from this angle. But we've kind of a little bit touched on it. What I'd love to talk about, I mean, the tour, and Junior just mentioned it, is this is where the tech starts to sort of appear in front of our eyes for the years to
ramp it up for this race.
What have you noticed? First couple of days, what has been the takeaway from you, gear-wise, tech-wise? What's been the big noticeable thing?
I'd say disc brakes are the new black, and aero bikes as well. I mean, you've got pretty much everybody. You've got 3 or 4 different bike brands releasing a new aero bike in the last couple of weeks. Pretty much every single bike is disc brake equipped these days. I can't see many teams. Surely the majority would have to be on discs by now. And it was something that only a year or two ago everyone was sort of like we were just speculating as to when it would happen, when we were going to reach some sort of a tipping point.
I've got the feel that's the word. Like for me, like stage 1 of the 2018 Tour de France, that was the tipping point for the disc brakes. Like I have not seen it like just explode like that before, and the professional guys seem to always be very slow to these sort of uptakes. So
you can say traditional, very traditional with their equipment selection.
And you get the feeling now that a lot of those sort of negatives or like maybe even urban myths about the disc brakes has gone, and guys are just fully committing to them now. I mean, Trek are just going to ride them for the tour.
Yes,
like they've
got all of the new Madone discs. Looks like pretty much everybody's on them. They've got a pretty flash paint job as well. Trek always like to bring up a nice flashy paint. Yeah, and they've delivered here. I quite like what they've got.
And even Lotto Soudal are running the Campy discs.
Correct.
So
first time I've ever seen that out in the wild. They've got all their Bora Ultra discs, their Campy disc wheels. And you also get the
you get the good and the bad
bicycle tech related. You get some custom clothing. So you've got Cav's shoes there. What do you think of those?
So look, I know Antoine, you're watching, and Antoine and I do love a sneaker.
I'd say love might be a bit of an understatement here.
And look, I loved when I heard Cav was doing custom Nike cycling shoes, I thought this is going to be so mint. It's going to look awesome. and then he turned up with them, and they look like that. Sorry, Cav, I absolutely love you. I hope you win a stage of the Tour de France, but I hope you're not wearing those because they're terrible.
You can put the orange ones back on. I'm a fan of those, but yeah, not great. Not the grey ones, not so much.
Okay, so that's some gear chat. We will finish with a little chat about stage 3. Stage 3, which is the team time trial. And Luke, if you can quickly throw to that particular image. For those of you guys who know me, you know that the team time trial is close to my heart. Absolutely love the event. Just the whole concept of getting out there and having an absolute rip in the aero bars with your mates is nothing better. No, seriously, I'm so pumped for this stage. Like, we get a small chance doing a team time trial every year with just 4 guys. Like, the concept of doing this with 8 other people at the Tour de France, this must absolutely G up these guys.
And don't forget what we did was on road bikes, and that was sketchy enough. I can't imagine trying to rip it with 8 guys for a team time trial.
Exactly.
35 Ks
It was pretty interesting. And look, as far as let's have a quick chat about the actual team time trial itself. This will play a huge part in this year's GC, right?
Yes, definitely. I mean, you have sort of 3 also really dominant teams for a team time trial, and they're going to put time into everybody else. It's pretty much a guarantee. It'll be interesting to see how the non-team time trial sort of specialist teams go. I mean, they've all got GC riders. They all have to limit their losses, but it's going to be interesting to see if guys like Froome and Richie can make up the sort of the 51 seconds that they've lost. Quintana as well. It'll be interesting to see how Movistar pull it back. I mean, they have an incredibly strong team here, but it was also quite interesting to see Quintana, after he broke both of his wheels trying to bunny hop a traffic island on the first stage, not actually have a single teammate drop back to help him. So I'm not really sure how Movistar are going with their politics even on day 1, but it remains to be seen how they'll work together for something like a team time trial, which is very much, it's sort of the epitome of a team aspect of cycling. So it'd be interesting to see how they're gelling, and wonder if those really dominant teams are going to be able to pull all their time back and level the GC again.
2 things I'll be watching for on the TT, because I have a slight obsession with the TT, so obviously you have stronger and weaker guys, right, in the TT. And what I'll be interested to see is whether they try and use a couple of burners. So by that I mean maybe you're a weaker time trialist or someone who is literally just going to linger to actually burn them up early and try and, what they'll often do is try and get that speed up to 50 plus. And then once you get it up there, you can try and hold the speed. So maybe they'll use a few burners to do that. Alternatively, will your sort of your pure time trialists like Dumoulin, those sort of the guys, do just big turns on the front, like to actually try and hold the speed. So I don't know quite how that plays out throughout it, but we will definitely be keeping a bit of an eye on it. Well, I will be, because I love it. It's awesome. I don't know how to get this off, genuinely. Oh, there we go. That was quite easy, as it turns out. So guys, that is pretty much us done in terms of our quick chat through stage 1 and stage 2. Luke, have you highlighted any questions there that you think we should have a little crack at?
As for the no clouds, or the clouds not moving with no breeze, it's an incredibly still day here. Actually, we've left the incredible gale force that we had for the metros on Saturday, and even a bit of wind on Sunday at West Head. Completely still day here in Paris. It's beautiful, actually. Very great scenery out here.
I think I saw somebody ask where the helmets were from.
Chris's garage. That's where they're from. So we're running the this will come at a later time, and I'll do a vlog comparing Aero helmets. But yeah, this is the Aero 7, and that's the Giro Stealth.
Arrowhead.
There you go. So that's what they are. Okay, finally, I think we're on bicycle.
Okay. Which team will win the TT?
Okay, team time trial. Victor,
Oh, actually, no. I saw a question I'd like to highlight. Someone asked if or why I don't have an Aquila yet, a Bianchi time trial bike. I'm wondering if you can answer that for me. Why do I not have one?
Yes, and I'll pass your query on to Bianchi Australia.
Is it in the mail?
It's in the mail, absolutely.
Brilliant.
It's linked to the same budget that we have used to spend to travel here to Paris today.
Okay, interesting.
So that's unfortunate.
Well, there's the answer. Sorry for all the fans.
Look, Blake, I reckon not unfortunately, because I do genuinely actually respect them, but I do think Sky will win this team time trial. I had a feeling that Mitchelton Scott could have done something, but I think no Impy is going to play a big issue there. What do you reckon, Junior? I'm
going to pick BMC. I'd love to see, they're one of my favourite teams. I'd love to see them getting Richie up, getting some time back. Yeah, I'm gonna pick BMC. I mean, Sky pretty hard to pass, but yeah, I'm gonna pick BMC here. Oh, and St George, of course.
Right, guys.
Question on when's this going to be on? Is it daily? Not daily?
Well, so the good news here does seem to be that this works in the sense that you can hear us and you can see us, which was an improvement from episode 1. So with that said, we are definitely going to be back on Wednesday. We will be bringing you all the news from the team time trial. I will hopefully not just spend an hour talking about the aerodynamic gains of certain particular wheel sets over others, and actually talk about something that might interest a few people. Apart from that, we will go from Wednesday. We're down in actually Melbourne in the end of this week, so whether we try and take this on the road, well, I mean, obviously we already have taken it on the road, but
yes.
You know what I mean. So, and we will highlight the best kits of the tour. I will definitely go a little bit more detail about the best looking team time trial, because the fact is you've got the time trial bike, the helmet, the skin suits. That is in itself a pretty cool looking entity, and we'll grab some thoughts on that.
Favourite ice cream flavour is going to be mint choc chip.
For me
as well. Yeah, well, you got to answer the questions.
I'm Robin Raisin, mate. Always been Robin Raisin. 100%.
Raisin, boy.
Come on. All right, keep the chat coming for the next episode on Wednesday. We will be
new host.
We may have a new host. We're going to go up against the State of Origin. Okay.
We're the pre-show for them.
Yeah, we're the pre-show of the State of Origin. In 2 minutes' time, you can pop over to... Oh, and finally, actually, 2 minutes' time, you can pop over to the SBS. But I do want to quickly mention that we have begun discussions with Bo. I am in contact with Bo in Europe, and the feature of Bo's Bowl on tour, otherwise known as... what's Gabriel's bloody...
Gabriel Gatteau, the Taste Latour.
The Taste Latour. We will come up with a more Bo-esque title, obviously, but that will happen. It will involve him somewhere in a Scandinavian country where he is at the moment.
Brilliant.
We will see you on Wednesday, guys.
Bring back Bo's Bowl.
Bring back Bo's Bowl.
BBBB.
Thank you very much. Play the outro, Luke. We are done. Thanks again, guys.